Hello, my name is Pip Patterson, and I'm an emeritus professor at the Universities of Sydney and Melbourne, and so very much at the mature stage of my career. I've recently retired as Deputy Vice-Chancellor Education at the University of Sydney. I have a long-standing interest in social network analysis. Indeed, I've been working in the field for 40 plus years. With a particular interest in mathematical models for networks, including statistical models.
Hi, I'm Laura Cayley, and I am a senior investigator and the branch chief of the Social and Behavioral Research Branch at the National Human Genome Research Institute of the National Institutes of Health in the United States. I've been in the social networks field for over 30 years, and my research focuses on family network systems. We use a multi-informant approach to understand the structure and function of family systems as families communicate about and cope with inherited disease risk.
Hi, my name is David Joch, and I'm a team lead for transparent social analytics at GESIS in Cologne, Germany. I probably am now in the mid stage of my career, and my research interests are all kinds of methodological advancements or method development for network analysis around signed networks, centrality, and so forth.
My name is Jared Ivanich. I'm an assistant professor at the Colorado School of Public Health at the Anschutz Medical Campus in the Centers for American Indian and Alaska Native Health. I am a member of the Metlakatla Indian community from Southeast Alaska. And in terms of some of my research interests, I do work in tribal communities around substance use and suicide prevention for adolescents in tribal communities. So I've been an assistant professor for 2 years now, and I was a postdoc before that, so still very much so in kind of the early career researcher stage of life and figuring out how to be an independent investigator and what I want that trajectory to look like.
Hi everyone, my name is Alice Schwartz. I'm a postdoc at the mathematical department at Dartmouth College. I study dynamical systems and data on networks. So I think about things that are processes that happen on networks. So for example, the spread of disease or information on networks of people or places, traffic flow on road networks, communication between firing neurons, pheromone trails laid by ants. So I think about what types of data can we measure about these processes, and how can we relate that data to mathematical models of these processes?
I'm Professor Kerry Wilson, and I'm the Pro Vice Chancellor Sustainability Strategy at QUT, and I'm also a Professor in Environmental Science. I graduated from my PhD in 2004, so I guess I'm at the later end of mid-career stage in my career.
G'day, how are you? So my name is Ryan McAllister. I work for the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, so CSIRO for short. I'm a research director, so I run a program of research, probably have about 40 FTEs at the moment, and a budget holder, so I kind of look at managing a substantial investment to do research and development to boost the value of agricultural exports in Australia.
Networking is important because networking and your network is closely related to your reputation. But when people talk about networking, I wonder if they're taking a too narrow definition and thinking about things like going to functions and using social media. I mention this because I don't use or do much of that kind of networking, but I do have a supportive network nonetheless. So I guess I'd just like people, when they're talking about the importance of networking, to take a broad definition of what that looks like and the mechanisms by which people can network.
Networking is important, but there shouldn't be pressure. Suffice to say, there's more than one style of networking. So networking really, to me, fundamentally is about understanding who to work with and having the personal, I suppose, characteristics that allow you to collaborate And so that could mean for some people, if you're particularly gregarious, it might be just knowing a lot of people. It's probably fair to say in science there's not that many people that kind of fit into that category. But networking also could quite simply mean having a good understanding about what organisations are in the landscape, understanding what motivates different people or different organisations, and then really just being able to sit back and listen and put the pieces together and at least have conversations with people to try and, to show them that you understand and explain what the value proposition is for working on collaboration. So networking, of course, it can help you, give you a break if people know you because they might have opportunities for you. But as you start to move up the career, you've already got your break. And so really networking is about making big things happen at scale, things that you couldn't do alone.
Well, developing scholarly relationships with others in the field is very important, regardless of career stage. Such relationships, whether or not they develop into formal collaborations, are important for pushing scientific innovation forward, sponsorship opportunities like invited talks, promotion reviews, and creating opportunities for mobility. So I encourage you to get to know your fellow INSNA members.
I think that networking is incredibly important for several reasons. I had the fortune as a graduate student to have access to resources and funding opportunities to go to many conferences as a graduate student. And I know that many of those were not just beneficial in terms of the academic rigor and knowledge that I was able to gain when attending those conferences, but also thinking through some of the relationships that I made at those conferences have now lasted and blossomed into many different grant writing opportunities, manuscripts that have been published. My postdoc was a direct relationship to the fact that I went to a conference and met a mentor there who I was able to stay connected with, and when it was time for graduation, there was a postdoc opportunity available at Johns Hopkins Center for American Indian Health. So I think networking is incredibly important, not only just for the science, but also from the personal career development stage of things, to learn and get to know the field and to get to know the people that are going to be your colleagues for generations to come.
I think I have to give the network answer to that question. I think we've learned a great deal over the last decades about how important networking is, particularly in professional fields, fields where expertise matters a lot. And networking is really important as a way of joining and understanding a community which really needs to work together to make research work well. So, for example, the more you understand the breadth of interests in the field, the better you can judge, where to put your work, who you want to talk to, how you might suggest collaborating with someone. And you can also contribute to your field more effectively.
I think networking is extremely important for early career researchers because this is such an important and defining time of your career. Professional networks can help to learn about opportunities inside and outside academia. There might be pathways for careers that you even haven't considered because you haven't met anybody who has had that career path yet. And there's advice from more senior people in your network on how to plan and navigate that or other careers. There's also word of mouth of where to apply for maybe not so well advertised jobs that might actually be a really good fit for you. And of course, for many people, pursuing a career in research is not just a career, it's a vocation. And so personal and professional networks blend together. And so, for example, I have close friendships that started out as a meet and greet at a conference. And academia has its ups, but also many, many downs. And it's the friends that you make in your field that are going to have your back and going to help you deal with the tough times and celebrate your wins together.
I think networking is quite important for early career researchers because just these links that you create are can be beneficial in the future of your career. What I want to say about this tool, though, is it's not only about getting to know the big names in your field. You should not shy away also to try to actively network with other early career researchers, because they too can provide you with a lot of information or social capital, if you want to say.
Other important skills to nurture include managing a lab. I can tell you this is not something I learned as part of my doctoral training. It was definitely learned through on-the-job training, building an inclusive lab culture, and mentoring others. Such skills are really important in nurturing future social network scientists, which I'm sure you're involved in now and you will definitely be involved in the future. And this is so important to growing our field.
I think another important skill for early career researchers, maybe this goes a bit away from research, but I think you always have to be sure to keep a balance between work and your personal well-being. It's easy as a early career researcher to fall into the trap of just hunting down the next paper or the next research project, and in the process forgetting to take care of yourself. So I think in the long run it's very important that you do not neglect your own well-being in favor of your career.
And so I would really encourage early career researchers to be thoughtful, mindful of the ways in which they can nurture those soft skills, if you will, and not always just focus on what is the next methodological advancement and how do I learn that and what's the textbook I need to read for that. Those things are important, but also what's incredibly important is how do you become a research entrepreneur to a certain degree.
Okay, in terms of important skills for ECRs, I would say that understanding context is really important. At a macro level, that can be understanding government policies and the implications that have for the higher education sector. Understanding your university responses to that, and also how your school is mobilising its resources in order to deliver on that university response. And then at a micro level, understanding what's going on with your colleagues. So a really important skill, I'd say, is getting in the habit of checking in with the context, and also locally getting in the habit of asking yourself, what else can I be doing to make this workplace a better place for everyone?
I would say collaboration is very important. I think it comes naturally to many people who study networks. They understand what it is and how to do it, but it's not something we necessarily develop explicitly as part of PhD training programs. So it is something spending a little time ensuring that you can go about that in an effective way, in a way that works for you and for your potential collaborators.
I've managed many staff by now, hundreds I'd say, and we are an impact organisation, so we're not about taking a bit of science and developing it. We're actually about finding a problem and solving it. So the thing that I see as the major weakness of the scientists coming through is really their ability to listen, actually, to really clearly have conversations with people who have a problem and actually understand what that problem is. So it's very easy to say, I've got a solution and run around and try and look for people to fund, that solution. But if you want to work at scale on bigger important problems, you really have to make sure you've got good listening and understanding skills and try and understand what people's problems are.
Of course, you have to have the fitting skills for the position, but for me personally, it's very important that a candidate brings in the passion for this position. So it's yes, having certain skills for a position are helpful, but if I see that a person is also willing to learn new skills or has the potential to learn new skills to fill this position, then this is almost more valuable for me than having someone with a shiny CV.
You asked what I look for when I hire a postdoc. Well, there's a relatively simple answer to that question. I certainly look for excellence, not necessarily in the field of the activity directly, but hiring people who do great work and who can do great work and who've demonstrated that they can do great work. That's pretty important to most academic hiring decisions. So my message is going to be that excellence is really a driver of many of the decisions that occur in academic contexts, and I would certainly be guided by excellence in making choices and hiring decisions. Having said that, it's not the only criterion I would pay attention to. I think having the skills to collaborate is equally important. You need to become a part of a team and be a good team member. And so I think all of those skills that make you a productive member of a team are also important.
I will say the thing that's changed in the last 20 years is that recruiters like me and Cyro and other organisations, we still look for that one major sort of selling point, so the disciplinary background, but we look for diversity as well because we don't know what the future is going to hold. Things change pretty quickly these days, so a skill set, a secondary skill set, and absolutely personal characteristics. So, you know, what do you like working in a team? Can you have discussions with externals? Do you help promote good working values in a working area as well? So personal characteristics and a bit of diversity goes a long way. What are you looking for when you hire? Yeah, back to that point just above. I think, as I said, when I was interviewed, they kind of basically said, you've got that one skill we want, so that's sufficient. You know, I remember recently recruiting someone who had some skill sets, but had, I think, 3 years in a failed startup. Other people have been chefs, or they've had different languages, or an eclectic range of experiences. And all that sort of experience you can bring into the workplace and provide a little bit of diversity, a bit of understanding about how to work in groups, and allow you to be, I suppose, more adaptable when the rules change, because they will change. It's not like, well, for us, it's not a job for life anymore. It's actually about a place to work, but you need to evolve with your, you know, with your university or with your organisation to keep your job viable and fresh.
What I'm looking for in a postdoc probably depends on the project and its funding. If I've got a time-bound project that has really tight milestones, then I'm looking for a postdoc that has the demonstrated experience and skills in order to deliver on that. But if there's a little bit more flexibility, then I really do look for people that have social science backgrounds and expertise, because it's great to be able to bring those ideas and skills into other projects. The other thing I'm looking for are indicators that the postdoc will be a constructive and collaborative member of the community. That's both within the internal research group in terms of working with other staff and other students, but also externally with others across the university and outside of the university. In addition to direct supervision of ECRs, I also mentor several ECRs per year. This can often entail working with them on their promotion materials or helping them negotiate the conditions around their tenure track jobs. Probably one observation I have through those types of activities and working with ECRs is that people are often underestimating their value. And this is particularly important for women. So if I have one bit of advice for ECRs, it's to be bold. You're probably underselling yourself. Be courageous, put yourself forward, and really demonstrate and communicate your worth. because it's enormous and you're probably underselling yourself.
So being a part of a network is actually quite important, I think, in an academic context. And of course, we know from a lot of studies that means being part of an embedded group of people who are working in a common field, but also being open to connections with people who are a little bit outside of that field. That mixture of closed and open network structures matters for academics as it matters in so many different realms.
As women progress in their careers inside and outside academia, it is still very true that it gets lonelier the further up you go. So in my field, for example, it is still quite common for departments to have just one or two or maybe even no women faculty. And this makes it difficult for women to build networks with other women. And that's especially important when we want to discuss issues that relate to our experience with workplace sexism or family planning. And women might have problems that come up that are very specific to them in these contexts, and women might want to discuss these problems with other women. And so Women in Network Science is a society that is all about bringing women with research interests in the study of networks together, and to make them form professional connections, friendships, support groups. Really, our mission is to help women succeed in their careers as network researchers, whatever that means to them.
For us, and for me specifically, I help and am kind of in the process of working with INSNA to establish a diversity special interest group. And so I think the scope is somewhat up to the group and up to where we want to take that. You know, I think many of us have seen the emails, have participated in the meetings for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the past several years. And I think that those are important, but I think that what we need to do is push beyond kind of regular meetings where we just come and talk about these things, but what are the bylaws that INSNA is committed to? What's the code of conduct that we feel that we as members of INSNA and attendees of Sunbelt want to hold ourselves accountable to? And so I think the scope of what we aim to do is still very much so in its early infancy. And so I think that it's up to the organization, it's up to us to really do some self-reflection and some evaluation of where do we want to be as an organization and what standards do we want to hold ourselves to.
And so as to who can be part of that, the great thing is that anybody of any gender can be part of our society. It is the mission that brings us together rather than our gender. Women in Network Science has currently around 200 members. Most members are women. Some members are non-binary and they take part in our activities and discussions about gender discrimination to the extent that it is helpful to them and seems appropriate. And some of our members are also men who simply support our mission and want to help our society succeed.
I am extremely excited about the efforts of INSNA and Sunbelt to move forward on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think that we are hoping to really solidify what that special interest group is from an official standpoint in terms of the bylaws, the structures, what resources it can provide to members. But I think it's also important for us to recognize that we're here to grow and learn together, and oftentimes that's done in public, and so we may not get it right. So the first time, so please, be part of making it better. We want to see you. We hope that you'll join us in these efforts. So thank you.
Emerging and mid-career researchers are INSNA's future, and I want to encourage you to become involved in the organization. How can I do that, you may be asking? Well, here are a few thoughts. Volunteer to serve on committees. We will be surveying the membership this month to assess interest in several volunteer opportunities. Reach out to our journal editors and voice interest in being involved in review activities or curate a special issue for the Journal of Social Structure. Consider a leadership position within the organization or share your skills through workshops. I also want to invite you to identify ways that INSNA can support you and your needs and let us know. We will do our best to make them happen.
Early career researchers are at an important stage of their career and particularly vulnerable. And so we as a society focus a lot of our energy and resources to help women at this career stage succeed. So, for example, we host virtual writing groups for late-stage PhD students or everyone else who really just needs to get something written and done. We host talks by early career researchers at conferences, online and offline, in our weekly online seminar series. We have mentorship programs in place to connect early career researchers with senior members to talk about research and to talk about soft skills. We have graduate student workshops at which graduate students organize a workshop to learn some network related skill. And these are organized by graduate students, for graduate students, and everyone else who wants to have an introduction level tutorial for some code library or some technique used to analyze network type data. And so in terms of how early career researchers fit into women in network science, nobody knows better what an early career researcher needs than an early career researcher. So most people behind the scenes at Women in Network Science are PhD students and postdocs. Everyone at our society is a volunteer. We host Zoom rooms for writing groups, for workshops. We match mentees with mentors for a mentorship scheme. We publish repositories on GitHub with helpful information for people at an early career stage. We send email newsletters, share job ads on Slack, write session and satellite proposals for conferences, and most importantly, we see through all of these activities that is really just the strokes of a few keys, just writing another email, that these can make a real difference for some of our members. And so for me, that is one of the most rewarding experiences that I have made as an early career academic. And if that is something that you are interested in, feel free to get in touch, join our society, get in touch with me or anybody on the Women in Network Science Leadership Board about that you also want to support women in network science and our mission to help women succeed in their careers. Thank you.
I think that it's still important, if you feel that urge to commit to and to grow and to learn, I think that there's space for everybody. There's always room for allyship because there is not enough folks of color, of diversity within these spaces as it is. And so having good allies, having good partnership, having folks that are coming to the table humble yet ready to learn and ready to do work is incredibly important. So we invite everybody and all people to come and be part of our diversity special interest group. I think it's incredibly important. And then I think in terms of what can the group do for early career researchers, I think it ties directly back into that networking piece, right? So I think it's incredibly important to network with more senior folks and to learn from them, to see what projects that they've got going on, but also early career researchers are the next generation of researchers. And so because of that, I think it's incredibly important that we come together, and because we are at the cutting edge of the science, because we're at the cutting edge of where society's going when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion. I think because we're at the cutting edge of a host of topics, I think it's incredibly important that we also have opportunities and a space for us to be able to gather and learn from each other as well. And then I think as we do that, and as we find space, find time, and really come together, I think that there's opportunities for collaborations internationally, nationally, and I think that there's many opportunities to learn from each other. I think that there are many opportunities, not just for paper collaboration, but grant writing applications. And I think it can just be a resource, not just in terms of collaboration and, what's the product here, but I think also some solidarity. I think we do this work oftentimes in silos. We're the only person at our university that's interested in this kind of work, be it social network analysis or diverse populations or equity and inclusion efforts. I think if you have a desire to participate, I think coming to this type of group, I think you'll find your folks. I think you'll find opportunities to grow. I think that you'll have a space to be able to ask those burning questions that may not really, turn into a paper together, that may not turn into a grant writing opportunity together, but may just be an extra set of eyes on your work, on your efforts to really bolster and improve the work that you're doing, and vice versa, for you to be able to engage and contribute to a group of like-minded individuals to make the work better for everybody. That's something that I think is incredibly important.